The metallic click of the pool gate latch was Sarah Mitchell's daily symphony of freedom. At 35, she had transformed her backyard into a meticulously designed oasis, a sanctuary that represented far more than just a swimming pool. It was her escape, her breathing space, the one place where the relentless pressures of her marketing job and the suffocating suburban politics melted away like morning mist. Every afternoon, precisely at 5:30 p.m., Sarah would slip into her favorite navy blue one-piece swimsuit, grab her noise-canceling waterproof headphones, and step into her carefully maintained backyard pool. The Laurel Estates subdivision was notorious for its rigid homeowners association, but Sarah had always been the model resident, impeccably maintained landscaping, no noise violations, and always prompt with her HOA dues. What she didn't know was that Linda Hartwell, the HOA board president who lived directly across the street, had been watching her with growing resentment for months. Linda was the quintessential neighborhood Karen, mid-50s, perfectly highlighted blonde hair, always in a tight ponytail, designer athleisure wear that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and a husband who was a local police detective. She had made it her personal mission to control every single aspect of the neighborhood, down to the exact shade of beige residents could paint their mailboxes. On this particular Tuesday, Linda stood behind her floor-to-ceiling living room window, her manicured fingers gripping a steaming latte as she observed Sarah's ritual. The pool was technically within regulation. Its positioning, its maintenance, even the height of its surrounding fence was perfectly in line with HOA guidelines. But that didn't matter to Linda. She had decided that Sarah's daily swimming routine was somehow a personal affront. Sarah lowered herself into the water, the cool liquid embracing her like an old friend. She pressed play on her waterproof playlist, the smooth jazz of Kenny G filling her ears as she began her methodical laps. Unbeknownst to her, Linda was already plotting. Detective Michael Hartwell listened half-heartedly to his wife's complaints over dinner. He had seen countless petty disputes in his years on the force, and this seemed like just another suburban drama. She uses the pool during quiet hours, Linda insisted, her voice rising with each word. There must be something we can do. Michael knew better than to argue. His wife's determination was legendary in both their household and the local law enforcement circles. When Linda set her mind to something, the world around her had two choices: comply or be bulldozed. What Sarah was about to discover was that some neighbors don't just dislike each other, they wage calculated, vindictive wars that can turn ordinary suburban life into a nightmare of bureaucratic harassment and personal vendetta. Little did Linda know that her attempt to disrupt Sarah's peaceful routine would unleash a chain of events that would expose far more than just a swimming pool dispute. Sometimes, in trying to assert control, people reveal the most dangerous parts of themselves. The stage was set, the players were in position, and the first shots of the suburban war were about to be fired. The first official salvo came exactly 1 week after Linda's dinner table strategy session. Sarah found a certified letter in her mailbox, its official-looking envelope bearing the Laurel Estates Homeowners Association letterhead. Her stomach tightened as she slid her finger under the seal, extracting a meticulously typed document that seemed to vibrate with bureaucratic malice. The violation notice was breathtaking in its pettiness. Apparently, her pool equipment was creating excessive noise during designated quiet hours, and her landscaping near the pool fence was not within regulation height. Each accusation was accompanied by a threat of potential fines that could escalate quickly if not immediately addressed. Sarah knew these claims were fabricated. Her pool pump was a high-end model specifically chosen for its quiet operation, and her landscaping had been professionally maintained by the same gardener who did work for half the neighborhood. This wasn't about rules. This was personal. Her first call was to Mark Reynolds, her longtime landscaper and unofficial neighborhood historian. "Have you heard anything about this?" she asked, reading the violation notice over the phone. Mark's low chuckle told her everything before he spoke. Linda Hartwell's been trying to control this neighborhood like her personal kingdom for years. Her husband being a detective makes her think she can get away with anything. The pieces started falling into place. Sarah remembered the neighborhood block party last summer when Linda had tried to convince everyone to vote her onto the HOA board's executive committee. She'd been rebuffed not because of any specific incident, but because the residents found her controlling nature exhausting. What Linda wanted, Linda typically found a way to get. Sarah's next move was strategic. She gathered her documentation: the pool pump's noise certification, her landscaping records, photographs showing the precise measurements of her fence and surrounding greenery. She would not be bullied. Meanwhile, across the street, Linda was feeling triumphant. Her first communication had been sent. The initial psychological warfare launched. She knew Sarah was the type to fight back, which only made the game more interesting. Detective Hartwell watched his wife with a mixture of amusement and mild concern. "You do realize," Michael said one evening watching Linda meticulously prepare another potential violation notice, "that harassment can actually be a legal issue if taken too far." Linda's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm not harassing anyone. I'm simply ensuring our neighborhood maintains its standards." But this was far from over. Sarah Mitchell was not a woman who would be pushed around easily, and Linda Hartwell had severely underestimated her opponent. The suburban battlefield was being drawn, with each side preparing their most potent weapons: documentation, determination, and an unwavering belief in being right. Sarah's response to the HOA violation was calculated and precise. She attended the next monthly HOA meeting, her folder of documentation tucked under her arm like a shield of truth. The community center's small conference room was packed with neighbors, most of whom had grown weary of Linda Hartwell's constant power plays. "I'd like to address the recent violation notice," Sarah announced, her voice steady and clear. She methodically presented her evidence: professional landscaping reports, decibel readings from her pool equipment, and photographic proof of her property's impeccable maintenance. Each document was a calculated blow, dismantling Linda's fabricated claims piece by piece. Linda's face grew progressively redder as Sarah spoke. Detective Michael Hartwell sat in the back of the room, his expression unreadable. He'd seen his wife's tactics before, but something about this confrontation felt different. The HOA board members, mostly retired professionals who valued peace over conflict, listened intently. Mark Reynolds, Sarah's landscaper, had strategically positioned himself near the front, ready to corroborate her statements if needed. "Not only are these claims false," Sarah concluded, "but they appear to be a deliberate attempt to harass me and disrupt my property's peaceful enjoyment." The room fell silent. Linda's carefully constructed facade began to crack. What Sarah didn't know was that Linda had already set her next plan in motion. Earlier that week, he had convinced her husband to do something unprecedented, to drive by Sarah's house during her daily pool time, ostensibly on patrol. The first incident seemed innocuous. A police cruiser slowly rolling past her property, brake lights flickering momentarily. Sarah noticed but dismissed it as coincidence. The second time, the car lingered. The third time, the officer, clearly Detective Hartwell, pulled to the curb and seemed to be taking notes. Sarah's friends noticed too. Emily Rodriguez, a local real estate attorney who lived 2 doors down, approached her with concern. "That looks like harassment," she warned. "Using a police officer to intimidate a resident? That's crossing a line." What Linda didn't anticipate was how her actions would unite the neighborhood. Whispers began to circulate. Neighbors who had previously tolerated her behavior started to question her motives. The more she pushed, the more resistance she encountered. Detective Hartwell was caught in a moral quandary. He loved his wife, but he was also a law enforcement officer sworn to protect citizens, not to be a tool for personal vendettas. Each drive-by, each casual observation of Sarah's property felt increasingly wrong. Sarah began documenting everything: dates, times, license plate numbers. She installed additional security cameras, capturing each suspicious patrol. What had started as a simple dispute over pool time was transforming into something far more significant. The suburban battlefield had expanded. Linda had miscalculated, believing her husband's position would provide her ultimate leverage. Instead, she was about to learn a brutal lesson about power, consequences, and the strength of community. The game had changed, and Sarah Mitchell was ready to play. The breaking point came on a sweltering Wednesday afternoon. Sarah was preparing for her daily swim when she noticed something different. A manila envelope had been wedged into her mailbox, not delivered by the postal service, but clearly placed there by hand. Her marketing training had taught her to be meticulous, and something about the envelope felt ominous. Inside, she found a series of heavily redacted documents that appeared to be police reports. Handwritten notes in the margins suggested fabricated complaints about noise violations, property line disputes, and vague accusations of suspicious activity. The documents were designed to look official, but Sarah's trained eye quickly detected the amateurish forgery. Emily Rodriguez confirmed Sarah's suspicions when she reviewed the documents. "These are completely fabricated," the attorney declared, her professional anger rising. "This goes beyond a simple HOA dispute. This is potential criminal harassment." What Linda didn't know was that Sarah had been quietly gathering evidence. The security camera footage, the documented police drive-bys, now these forged documents. Each piece was a puzzle that was about to come together in a way Linda never anticipated. The neighborhood was changing. Neighbors who had previously remained silent began to share their own stories. Janet Thompson, who lived 2 doors down, revealed that Linda had tried similar tactics with her when Janet refused to join a neighborhood cleaning initiative Linda had proposed. Mark Reynolds, the landscaper, mentioned other incidents of Linda's intimidation tactics that had gone unreported. Detective Michael Hartwell was becoming increasingly uncomfortable. His wife's behavior was no longer something he could rationalize or ignore. The ethical line between supporting his spouse and upholding the law was becoming razor thin. Sarah's strategy was deliberate. She wasn't just defending herself. She was exposing a pattern of behavior that had gone unchecked for years. Emily helped her compile a comprehensive dossier, documenting every single incident of harassment, every fabricated complaint, every inappropriate use of Michael's police position. The local police department became involved not through Michael's intervention, but through an independent internal review. Sarah's meticulously collected evidence began to paint a disturbing picture of abuse of power and systematic harassment. Linda's world was about to come crashing down, and she had no idea how close she was to losing everything she had carefully constructed. Her reputation, her husband's career, her standing in the community, all of it was hanging by a thread. As the summer heat intensified, so did the pressure building around the Hartwell household. Sarah Mitchell had transformed from a simple pool-loving professional into something far more dangerous to Linda, a strategic, patient opponent who was about to checkmate her in a game Linda didn't even realize she was losing. The suburban war had reached its critical moment, and Sarah was just getting started. The city council meeting room buzzed with an electric tension. Sarah sat in the front row, her navy blue blazer pressed, her documentation neatly organized in a leather portfolio. Emily Rodriguez stood beside her, a formidable legal presence that spoke volumes without uttering a word. What had begun as a simple dispute over pool time had metamorphosed into a comprehensive investigation of systemic harassment and abuse of power. The dossier Sarah and Emily had compiled was nothing short of explosive. It detailed not just Linda and Michael Hartwell's actions against Sarah, but a pattern of similar behaviors that stretched back years. Detective Michael Hartwell arrived looking defeated. Gone was the swagger of a man who believed he was untouchable. His police uniform seemed to weigh him down, each thread heavy with the burden of his wife's actions and his own complicity. Linda, typically impeccably dressed, appeared for the first time disheveled. Her perfectly highlighted hair was pulled back hastily, her designer outfit wrinkled. The veneer of suburban perfection had cracked irreparably. The city's internal affairs investigator reviewed the evidence with a growing expression of disbelief. Forged documents, repeated improper use of police resources, systematic harassment that crossed multiple legal boundaries. Each page turned was another nail in the Hartwell's professional coffin. Ms. Mitchell, the lead investigator, began, "We've reviewed your documentation. The evidence is comprehensive." Sarah's victory was not about revenge. It was about accountability. She had transformed from a victim to a catalyst for change, exposing a system that had allowed such behavior to persist unchecked for years. The neighborhood watched. Neighbors who had previously been too afraid to speak up now found their voices. Janet Thompson, Mark Reynolds, others whose stories had been silenced now came forward, their testimonies adding depth to Sarah's case. Michael Hartwell's career hung by a thread. Internal Affairs would recommend termination, his years of service tarnished by his wife's actions and his own moral compromise. Linda faced potential criminal charges for harassment and document forgery. But Sarah's greatest victory was more personal. Her pool, the sanctuary that had started this entire conflict, remained hers. Untouched, unbroken, a symbol of her resilience. As the proceedings continued, Sarah caught Michael Hartwell's eye. There was no triumph in her gaze, only a calm understanding. Some battles are won not through aggression, but through patience, documentation, and an unwavering commitment to truth. The suburban battlefield had been fought, and Sarah Mitchell had emerged not just victorious, but transformative. 6 months after the city council hearing, Sarah Mitchell's life had transformed in ways she could never have anticipated. The legal proceedings had concluded, leaving a trail of profound changes in their wake. Michael Hartwell had resigned from the police force, his professional reputation irreparably damaged. Linda faced multiple legal challenges, harassment charges, falsifying official documents, and a civil lawsuit that threatened to drain their financial resources. The once powerful HOA couple found themselves social pariahs, a reputation reduced to cautionary whispers among neighborhood gatherings. Sarah's pool became more than just a personal sanctuary. It evolved into a symbol of community resilience. The Laurel Estates Homeowners Association underwent a complete overhaul, implementing strict anti-harassment policies and transparency measures. Emily Rodriguez, inspired by the case, began offering pro bono legal clinics for residents facing similar neighborhood disputes. On the summer afternoon when Sarah first returned to her daily swim after the legal proceedings, something had changed. Neighbors who had previously kept their distance now waved. Mark Reynolds had expanded his landscaping business, bolstered by the community support each shown during the conflict. Janet Thompson had become an unexpected ally, helping to draft new HOA guidelines that protected residents from arbitrary harassment. The irony was not lost on Sarah. Linda's attempt to steal her pool time had ultimately given her something far more valuable: a sense of community, a platform for change, and a newfound confidence in standing up against injustice. During her evening swim, Sarah reflected on the journey. What had begun as a personal battle had become a catalyst for broader change. The pool remained her sanctuary, but now it represented something more, a testament to the power of patience, documentation, and unwavering principle. As the sun set over Laurel Estates, casting golden ripples across her pool's surface, Sarah understood that some victories are won not through confrontation, but through resilience. Linda Hartwell had sought to intimidate her, to rob her of her peaceful moments. Instead, she had inadvertently given Sarah something far more powerful: a voice, a purpose, and a community united. The suburban war was over, and Sarah Mitchell had emerged not just victorious, but transformed.